Well, hello, welcome to cEDH Budget Brews. I'm Tim, and tonight I'm joined by...
Brandon, hi.
How you doing, Brandon?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, man. It's been a couple weeks since we've sat down together because I've been in Florida seeing the Outlaws.
Seeing the crackheads?
No, seeing the Outlaws. Even though they're like the least outlawy outlaws ever, they're like Viking River Cruise people. Pretty Caucasian. It's like real
extremely.
Caucasian. Yeah. But so I just got back like 2 days ago, and then I had to work a couple days. You know the usual.
Yeah.
So anyway, with all of the formalities out of the way, tonight I wanted to go over top 5 budget cEDH staples that I think everybody should pick up now. I think these are cards. Obviously, you can see them on the screen that have recently seen a reprint or haven't, like, while they're very popular, they haven't like kind of picked up in price yet. So kind of between those things, I just kind of wanted to discuss them a little bit. So without further ado, let's get started. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So the first one here I wanted to go over and talk about is Ignoble Hierarch. So Ignoble Hierarch is 0/1 for a green, has Exalted, and then makes Jund, makes black, red, green. Very similar to another card that oscillates between 15 and like $45 called Noble Hierarch, except this sees play in pretty much any Jund deck. So Jund is quite a popular modern card that sees a lot of play in pretty much any cEDH deck that is in those colors because it's one of the most efficient dorks. Right now, it's only about $350 to $450, depending on where you get it. And I can definitely see that now that Modern Horizons is out of print, like it's no longer in print run, it will start to tick up over time. And getting in on these at $3, $4 is really, you just can't go wrong. And I pretty much guarantee that you will play these because I know that I put Ignoble and Noble Hierarch they're like, it's like one of like if I had to put 4 dorks in a deck or like the best 3 or 4 dorks, usually it's going to be Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman, Ignoble if I'm in those colors, Noble if I'm in those colors. Maybe Elves of the Deep Shadow, but like at that point, when I really start getting optimized, if I'm not on a heavy dork plan, then it'll kind of fall off. But this is definitely like in the top 3, top 4 dorks that I play in those colors. Pretty much right behind Deathrite and Birds.
One thing I do want to say, Tim,
what's up?
Is that like you said, the price is definitely going to be going up now that it's no longer in print like consistently. But on top of that, like because this is such a popular color combo, it's probably either going to get to the price that Noble was if it doesn't see any reprints soon, if not greater than that, because it's more of a popular color scheme. So I do also want to mention that.
Yeah, because a lot of people like playing non-blue decks. Up next is actually Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Now, even before she got the reprint, she wasn't super expensive. I think she topped out at like $9. $9 for this effect, like in a Hate Bears deck. Like, it's not... For the price, I wouldn't always consider it at the top of my list. But now that it's down to $2, 75 cents in some places, like that's what Moxfield's calculating at, I think it's a great time to get these because it sees play in every format it's legal in. It also is very popular in most Hate Bear decks. And while at $10, I sometimes was hesitant to add her. I definitely play her in my budget list builds where her price isn't an option or it doesn't matter. So I think that now that she's so cheap is a great time to pick up a couple copies, even hold on to them for later and you can change them into something else. I'm not super into finance, but I'm a big proponent of like, if you need 1 copy, pick up an extra so that way you have it later, or maybe you can give it, trade it to a friend when they need it for stuff you need.
I will say that's really important because I remember having 4 of her because I had her in like different decks. and
Yeah.
it cost me $40, and it hurt
Yeah.
right in the heart area.
Yeah. And it sees play in almost every hate bear deck because she is one of the most efficient hate bears out there. Plus, you get first strike and stuff like that. So, up next is actually, this one is actually starting to creep back up a little bit. So I would definitely recommend getting it sooner than later. Before the Time Spiral Remastered got printed, it had crept up to about $30. Right now it's at about like between 10 and 12, depending on where you get it. I had seen this go as low as 8. This essentially sees play in 99% of decks that are on blue because it's very much a proactive counterspell. It protects your win attempt. It also doesn't cost mana, so it makes it even more desirable. Now, granted, it will never see the price of like Fierce Guardianship or Force of Will, but at $30, it was kind of one of those cards where it was like, when I'm building on a budget, it's kind of like a cost-benefit analysis where when a card starts getting to a certain price point, if it's not essential, it kind of starts to price itself out of decks, at least in my building. And right now, I've just been jamming this into everything because it's only $10 and it's a really cheap free counterspell.
I will say that it's definitely one of the best free counterspells because, like, you have Misdirection, and then you have other counterspells that you could cast for free or like really little mana value. But this is definitely like the beginner's free counterspell. You know what I mean? Like, it's where you start, and then you get into your Fierce Guardianships, and then your Force of Wills, Force of Negations, and stuff like that.
Right, deflecting SWAT, and because those are all like $40 to $50 plus. Anywhere, like I think deflecting SWAT starts at like 40, Fierce is at like 50, and then Force of Will and Force of Negation are like 100. So for $10, you can at least get one copy of that effect. Right now, it will probably go back up. Most of its history, it was around the 20 to 25 mark, but I have seen it creep up as high as 30 when like Modern's like super popular.
When I started playing it, as it's like that meme from the Avengers movie where Thanos gets the stone and you just feel the power going up his arm. That's what it was every time I played it.
Yeah, exactly. And then up next, we have Talisman of Dominance. So Talisman of Dominance is the blue-black talisman. It was about $15 before it got reprinted. It's right now at about $5.50-ish. I've seen them as cheap as $4. I've seen them as expensive as $6. It probably will not stay this price forever because it has been reprinted in the past, I believe. Let me double check.
Yeah.
So it has been printed 3 times. All of the copies have dropped in price. And I have seen this as much as $15, maybe even $20 at one point.
I had one in my old Demir decks, and I picked it up when it was like $8, and then seeing it climb to $15, almost $20, and I'm just like, it's not worth that price.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, it was one of those cards that like I stopped playing it, or I stopped putting it in my list just because like I'm not going to pay $20 for a 2-mana rock. I can squeeze a couple bucks out and put a Mox Opal in at that point. You know what I mean? And also of note, just as an example, the blue-white talisman, which has not seen a reprint and is about $15 to $17 right now. So I do think that this will rebound because this is one of those cards, much like Soul Ring, where anytime somebody gets a copy, it generally tends to go somewhere and not get back into circulation very much. So I think it'll dry up pretty quick. All of these, I'm kind of thinking like you'll start seeing the prices really start to kind of trend back up over the next like probably 6 months.
Maybe a year or two, yeah.
6 months or less, maybe even. Like I'm not going to say that it's going to be pretty gradual, but I just think that it's a good time to get in on these all right now. And then our official final one is actually Wishclaw Talisman. Wishclaw Talisman rotated out of standard last fall. It has maintained its price tag of about $3, but it is seeing a lot of play. Again, pretty much like everything on this list, if it's in black and it needs to tutor and it's not running 18 null rod effects, it's running Wishclaw Talisman because you can play it on one turn and then activate it on another turn. And it doesn't matter that you give it to somebody else if they're dead. which is generally the most common play pattern with it. I have seen it used like politically and stuff before. I'll get a piece of interaction on my turn because we know somebody's going to win, and then the next guy, the guy I give it to, we kind of have a little conversation about. And, you know, not to say that that's always the smartest thing, but usually I'm playing with all the same people, so I kind of take them at their word and stuff. But again, I just think that for a black and 2 colorless, a card that puts it to hand is definitely worth considering, even if it is at sorcery speed. Especially when you consider, like, for example, the next probably closest good counter spell would be like Grim Tutor at black 1. So that double black's a little more cost prohibitive. A lot of times I can go land Soul Ring and then the next turn play the Talisman, activate it, and do something because I'll have mana left over.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that, like, it's been steady while it was in Standard, which is surprising in my opinion because it's get used like pretty much everywhere. Like, all of my friends have it. Everyone I know that runs a black deck has it. So I'm actually really surprised that it stayed around this price range. But I definitely think that it's going to skyrocket, like, out of nowhere, like a lot of other cards do.
Well, and it's one of the better tutors in Pioneer, too. Some of my thought process on these cards is based on the play patterns that I see because LGSs are starting to open up, Command Fests are starting to open up. I'm seeing more tournaments, more of those things, right? And then lastly, I did have 2 honorable mentions, and I really felt that I needed to mention these just because of the necessity of having these cards and historically how expensive they have been. In Modern Horizons, all of the Zendikar fetches got reprinted. But particularly Marsh Flats is at about $14. Now, to put that in perspective, that's about the same. That's cheaper than a Blood Crypt right now.
Cheaper than Blood Moon right now.
Yes, it's cheaper than Blood Moon. And Arid Mesa is at about 16. So these right now are the 2 cheapest fetch lands that you can buy. There haven't been fetch lands this cheap in probably 2 years. And that was Windswept Heath at 13. But now that has gone way past that. I do think that these are going to go back up. It's, as with all fetch lands, it's just simply a matter of time. And I think now, if you can afford it, is a great time to get in on these. And I cannot stress, get as many copies as you can afford. Because that worst case scenario, if you go back to play 60 card, now you got 4 copies of your fetch lands for Modern. And this will help you fix in pretty much every non-blue color, and even in some blue colors, because white and red are pretty popular control colors in Modern. Like, even if you're just playing, like, you know, whatever the blue-red Delver version is this week. I mean, I don't know what they're calling it nowadays, but
there's like a Boros Burn, there's Rakdos Burn and shit like that. So.
Yep, and these will help you fix in those decks as well. Also, just of note, I didn't list it here, but Verdant is under 20 as well.
Historically, what they have been, you know what I mean?
And especially considering what they have been. I mean, Talisman was 15, Pact of Negation was about 20. These have been anywhere from 40 to, 60, I think they all peaked at, maybe 50. So I think now is a great time to get these cards. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks for everybody's support. Want to give a little shout out to Eco, Mr. Patron himself, as well as Doc. You know, you guys, your continued support just goes a long way. I'm going to try to start being a little better about giving shout outs at the end for the patrons. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the description below, or in the comments below. This list will be in the description, as well as linked to the website and all of our budget resources. So everybody have a good night. Bye.
Bye.